I hate this damn thing. Camera. Hi, everybody. This is Allison from Allykatkreations. Like, share, and subscribe if you haven't yet to do so. And if you get anything from my work, I'll connect the dot in epiphany, a mind-blown moment, or explosion, a new book to read, a new author to explore. All the links are at the bottom of the description. Scullies. This is a new one out of the mold. Baby pyramids. Business card holders. All the other ones I have are in a box for the show tomorrow, which, yes, if you are in Northwest Indiana and in the Maryville region, US 30, I will be at the library having an art show between 12 and 4. Come say hello, drop by. Putting myself out there so I can pay the bills and get some networking going and spreading my light. So I am really excited about this. I spent the entire day getting everything sorted out. I don't even think I have everything sorted out. I don't even care at this point. I then had to mow the lawn because we have rain coming in tomorrow. And then I decided, oh, I'm going to just move my humongous greenhouse over to the other side of the yard. So I'm spent. But personal survival. Before I get into the book, this is about animal survival. And when I started reading the first portion of the sentence, I just want to give you guys my experience before we go into the book really quickly. A lot of people, I'm one of them, I'm included in this. I love animals. And I just lost 2 within the last year. Ethan is coming up, and this is June. He passed away last June. He had a brain tumor and probably had a stroke. He was grand mal seizuring all night, and there was no bringing him back. And there was really nothing I could do. He was suffering, and I got the okay to pass him over. And then just recently, 10 days after Morgan turned 19, she was bleeding and clotting blood out of down there. And that's not normal. And when I checked to see what the signs were, I called the vet. That they were like, yeah, any minute now she could have a heart attack, a stroke. And it's her time. And she's lasted a lot longer than most cats with kidney failure. So Morgan was my familiar. Morgan was my second density self. And these are just two of my babies that passed away. I don't have kids. I don't have anything. And it's been really weird. I have little Thor, that's the outside cat I do videos on every day. He's not into the cuddly, wuddly, pet me kind of thing. So I just honor his wishes and feed him. But our animals, whether they're dogs, cats, birds, and whatever have you, they have a connection to you. They're your family, and you chose them to be a part of your family. So it is very rough, just like a human being passing away. It is really rough when they disappear, when they are out of your lives, and you're looking for signs, and you miss their greetings and cuddles, and you miss them. And it's the toughest thing to mourn an animal because they mean a lot, and sometimes more than humans. But the beautiful thing about this cycle, where we are right now in the world, where we are right now in reality, we're shifting up in energy. And a lot of our animals might be passing away, or they might make it, but they're going to live out their rest of their existence in the density where you're shifting to. And I do believe that the majority of them that do make this passage are becoming human. I know for myself, both Morgan and Ethan Cat are going to be human. I got confirmation already on this. They're now in what's in an in-between stage where they're learning and they're doing their higher density stuff in their higher density forms so that they can prepare for third density. And this is going to take a while. This is not, they're reincarnated right back into another animal. A portion of them might be, but a heavier essence of them is going to be human. We have to remember we're all in everything at once. We're the rock, the tree. That's why we can talk and connect with them, because we're a part of it. There's nothing separate. Yeah, it's a in this illusion. Yeah, that's a tree. And yeah, it's in the ground. How can I be the tree in the ground and be here individualized? Because you're just wearing an overcoat. Your vehicle is this body. But when you're in spirit, you are just about everything and you occupy everything. Higher and higher density as you go. So instead of mourning and missing and crying over the animals, just be excited and happy for their evolution. They get to move up, and we are cleaning up this density for them. Wouldn't you want a clean environment for your babies? I'm not talking about the human ones. I'm talking about your animals. So let's clean up this godforsaken place and let's hand it over in a better position than we left it. And we found it. Because God knows we have a lot of work to do still. But they're fine and they're happy. And we're going to read this chapter in hopes that this might help some people. If that what I just said did not help you, let's see if their stuff will. Animal survival. It will be a great comfort to many a sorrowing heart who has lost beloved pets, to know that there is ample physical proof of their personal survival after death. Not only is their presence only felt by their owners, but they have been photographed repeatedly. They have frequently manifested physically in materializing seances. Where's a dog bark, a cat's call, or a bird's chirp has been so plainly heard to be so positively identified by their owners. Pause. Remember when they wrote this book was in that time when spiritualism was just at its height, Edgar Cayce kind of thing, table shaking, seances, everybody was, drinking their 1920s juicy juice. And this was a big thing early in the 1900s. We have to bring our awareness to where they are in their journey in time space. I would say that I would be unhappy if I knew I saw Morgan, because that means she didn't cross over fully. I know I did. I crossed her over. I crossed Ethan over. But Ethan has come to me through energy to light up balls to answer my questions. Morgan has yet to do that. It's going to take her some time, but she might come in another way. I just haven't figured out what that sign is yet. But for animals, Morgan used to jump up into this like bar cabinet thing my mom had, where my first cat ever, Taffy, his ashes were there. And she jumped up every once in a while and then she just looked at his ashes, the box. And that was my sign that he was around, because she was right there with him. Cats could see beyond the veil. So they can be photographed because their energy can be seen. But don't do seances. Just don't do them. Testimony. Many famous people have given their testimony to animal survival. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle has told how a medium coming into his study clairvoyantly saw and successfully described the author's dead dog to him. Sir Oliver Lodge has said that affection is the most vital thing in life. And like other vital realities, it continues on. The universe is governed by love more than anything else, and no reality of that kind fades out of existence. The higher animals have developed some human qualities and have obtained a stage at which there is individual memory, which is the beginning of personality. His dead son Raymond tells him that his favorite dog came to welcome him on his arrival in Spirit Land, and that he and others are not cut off from their animal friends. And this is super true. When Ethan passed away, and unbeknownst to me, I did make a medium reading. My dad and my mom were holding Ethan and petting him, and he was just cracking jokes and being funny shit, funny cat. Like he's really funny. But in his animal life, he was a skittish, scared cat. He didn't want to come out. He was very anxious. And, he was a loving cat to me, but he used to hide and not want to be bothered by anybody else. So he's not like that in spirit. It's a beautiful thing. And what they're describing is when an animal can self-identify, that's the beginnings of third density. The technical terms of density, what you're moving up into, is third density is self-identification, identification of self, actually looking in the mirror and recognizing your soul. But you're informed, so you're recognizing you. So when the baby looks in a mirror and is pointing and playing and recognizes itself, animals, when they do that, sometimes they actually can self-identify, and other times they're scared and they jump away. They don't know that that's them. They think it's another animal. So when animals can self-identify, 9 times out of 10, in just estimation and spirit confirmation from upstairs, and this is just my interpretation and what I'm getting, go within, please. They're going to be human. They're moving on up. Where are they? Generally speaking, only domestic animals who have acquired human qualities through their contact with man return to demonstrate their individual survival of death. But all species of animals, when they die, go to the part of the spirit world known as the animal plane or sphere. They gravitate quite naturally to the environment most suited to their needs, state of consciousness, and condition of passing. Some spirit people visit and even live on the animal plane in order to work there. It helps all the sorrowing friends left behind to know that there is a survival after death. And even a beloved animal may be very much alive, perhaps as compensation for the amount of wild animals' life thoughtlessly destroyed on Earth. It might be a human's lot to render aid to the newly awakened spirits of slaughtered beasts. He may assist the bewildered cattle recently slain to become fully aware to their new form of existence. He may lead them to the pastures new, where contentment awaits them. In perfect operation of divine law, both man and beast must revive compensation in the next sphere for what they have suffered on earth as innocent victims of injustice. Don't necessarily believe so, because it's an illusion here. So they're sacrificing their substance to help a bigger organism. In their passing, they do raise in frequency and raise into the next density of experience. So most of us had to go from rock to the air to the vegetable life to the ant to the bee to the butterfly. And then we worked our way up the animal chain to the ones that get killed really quite frequently and often, and then ones that live for longer spans of time. Death is just an experience, it's an illusion. And we got to keep that in mind when we're looking at the polarities and everything. I know this is, I'm not against what they're saying at all, and I love them to death, but I I mean, if you're so passionate about animals and you are a farmer or you are on a barn, and this is like a zoologist who worked at a zoo and you're like passions animals, right? Like you, when you get upstairs, you're going to be assigned jobs and you get to choose. Like you, oh, what dream would it be to hang out with a sloth? I love sloths. Like I would want to hug sloths all day. Like who wouldn't? You would be put there for work. You're omnipresent and you're so much, you're infinite. You have so many essences running around. So one of you, the one, many ones of you can be with hanging out with the animals. I hope maybe that might be one of my essences, is on over that rainbow bridge and hanging out with my animals and playing with sloths. Animals teach us unconditional love. Okay, I have spirit with me. They teach you unconditional love. And that's to help us raise to the next density. And many of us are already, see, my eyes are watery. That's the spirit. So it's either my parents or it's Morgan coming in. They teach us as we're teaching them to be human. They're giving us that leap forward to be compassionate, to have unconditional love. And that is where fourth density dimension is. They teach us. And it's a beautiful expression of what they do. Group soul. We are taught in our cosmic soul science that all lower forms of life are but the expression of the consciousness of one greater entity called the group soul. Each species of animal has its own group soul, which requires all the individuals of that group species to express its consciousness and to contribute to the evolution of the species as a whole. Social memory complex. This group soul governs all its members by its consciousness expressed as instinct. We will be that in that term. We're going to all be moving up into that, into high, and when we get to the higher densities, social memory complex, that's exactly what that is. They act individual, but it's a group consciousness. It's very weird to explain. It's not hive mind. There's a big difference between hive mind. Each animal is individualistic. Each animal is expressing its own personality and its characteristics. It's operating on its individual basis, but in essence, there is one who steers it all. It's weird. go watch Brian Scott when he explains what quo is. Hence, all members of the same species will automatically react in practically the same way to any given set of conditions unless they are more or less individualized by contact with mankind. It is only natural, then, that upon their death they should return to the realms in which the group soul is located, thereby contributing to the consciousness of the whole, the rest of their individual experience. Even the very lowest forms of life have some sort of survival, because we know that the living spark cannot be extinguished by the death of the physical form. But as we have said, the lower forms of animal life become part of a group soul when their physical life is over. But even this group soul has its part to play in the operation of God's laws of evolution. By losing its identity and adding to the group soul or pool, the one is sacrificed for the whole. And by the sacrifice of this oneness, not only is the group soul advanced in evolution, but the one is raised nearer toward the stage in its own evolution, where it leaves behind the animal consciousness and is made ready for the individuality of soul in a human form. Bingo! Confirmation, confirmation, confirmation. I didn't read this, guys. I read it with you. The great spirit teacher, Silver Birch, to whom we have referred, tells us, quote, there are two kinds of incarnation. There is the old soul re-embodied in the world of matter, and there is the new soul starting its first phase in the world of matter as a human individual. That's where the animals are going. Although Morgan might be the old soul, Ethan the new. I just love getting validated. I hope many of you who watch me get validated too. It's something within me that I've been saying this since I was a kid, and 9 times out of 10, people think I'm fucking crazy. And then I start reading it and seeing it in other places and other people saying it, and there's validity, there's weight to it. They just, I didn't even know what direction this section was going to take, and it went in the same direction I was mentioning in the beginning. I didn't know. I wouldn't have said anything in the first place. All survive. Although spirit communicators may not agree on all points or certain points about the kind of survival of the more lowly forms of life, they agree on the fact of survival in some form or another and on the points that matter. And as we have said before, they do all pass over to their own particular sphere on the animal plane. We are told that ferocious beasts do not continue to prey on other animals because they do not feel the necessity of satisfying carnivorous appetites. For similar reasons, the unpleasant characteristic of verminous pests cease to manifest. No barriers. While all animals have an afterlife for a considerable period, in the case of wild animals, such survival occurs largely in the native habitat in which they live before their death, and in groups and herds such as those in which they lived on Earth. This is for no great length of time. However, because they have not sufficiently developed the individuality from association with mankind, which the domesticated animals have, in the case of pet animals, the same law of association naturally draws them to their former masters. As one communicator says, I want you to know that death is not the end of all for your pet. Whenever you have a sense of needing him, your pet answers. If the ties of love are very strong between you and your pet animal, you may expect it to be greeted by your friends on the other side upon its arrival. And two, there are groups of animal-loving disincarnate persons who form a sort of rescue league to look after pet animals not able to make contact with their owners, left behind on the earth plane. Often, as on the earth, an animal has to seek the aid of a human before he can return from the spirit world to his owners. As in the case of humans, love bridges the gap between the two worlds. And so it is only natural that those animals which have been closely associated with human beings should be so attracted to them after death as to return and try to demonstrate their survival. Psychic research therefore shows that there are no barriers to separate a human being and his animal friend, even if one is in spirit world and one is here on the earth plane, if the association is mutually desired. Materialization and other phenomena. In the materializing seances of Polish medium Pulsicki, I'm totally butchering that name, by the way, animals often appeared. The most frequent of these to materialize were dogs, cats, and squirrels, while occasionally a large bird like a hawk or a buzzard, and once even a tame lion appeared. One of the buzzards was heard flying around the room and beating its wings against the walls and ceilings of this bird was at one time photographed by a magnesium flash. The seance was held in the light of a red lamp fixed about 6 feet from the medium. A few other examples drawn from the writings of an English investigator who has given special attention to the subject will illustrate the law. In one materializing seance, the materialized form of a large dog suddenly appeared. He bounced forward in a most energetic manner and proceeded to jump excitedly about the circle. Wagging his tail happily, he ran from one sitter to another, resting his paws on their knees and sometimes licking a hand or a face. At another seance, a small dog materialized sufficiently to bite playfully at the trouser legs and shoelaces of the owner. Another instance of materialization and of direct voice is as follows. A Great Dane, which after a disincarnate period of 20 years, often returned to its owner, barked so loudly through the trumpet that the owner said that there was no mistaking its voice. And on another occasion, it would plant its great paws heavily on her lap. On several occasions, a gentleman whose cattle dog had previously been killed found when he went for his cattle that the animals would bring to move and bunch together as though the dog were there, helping to round them up as usual. This continued until he got another dog. 4 days after the 4 days after the death of her pet cat, the owner heard a thud on the bed and a sound of purring. There was the invisible cat greeting her from his old particular spot on the bed. Her husband heard the sound of the purring also, and quite distinctly. Later, the same sound was heard by a visitor who recognized it as that of the pet cat. One dark night, as a gentleman was coming home from town along a lonely road, he heard a noise behind him, and turning around, he saw two men following him, apparently intent on robbing him. At the same moment, a large black dog suddenly appeared at his side. With an oath, the men slunk away. When the gentleman arrived at his gate, he reached down and patted the dog, who had so adequately protected him, but while he was doing so, the animal dissolved into thin air. A lady in Bath had a pet cat which was so jealous that it would never allow another cat to approach anywhere near its domain. Since its death, the owner has tried to keep many cats, but none would stay but for a short period. The owner considered this evidence of her jealous pets still dominating its neighborhood. A few days after the same cat passed on, it manifested itself to its owner by jumping from its accustomed resting place and pattering over to her. The jump down and the patter of the feet were so loud as to be distinctly heard by others in the next room. Through the trumpet, a guide told the sitter of the presence of a black sheepdog called Roe. Its owner testified that this dog had been raised from a puppy and had passed away some time previously. Its name was Roe, as correctly stated by the guide. The author had a very large, very heavy cat, whose favorite resting place was a certain chair, which it refused to vacate until it was titled, so that it had to jump to the floor with a characteristic thump. After the passing of this cat, the chair in which it had been known to sit would frequently be so heavy that it could scarcely be moved until it was tilted forward. As soon as this occurred, the familiar thump on the floor would be heard, and the chair could then be easily moved. At a home materializing seance, a large dog often materialized, resting his paws on the knees of the sitters. The crowning manifestation occurred when one occasion he ran to the bowl of water, which had been provided at the seance for the psychic purposes, and began to lap up the water eagerly and noisily, as though the excitement had made him thirsty. Afterwards, the bowl was found to be completely empty, and there was not a drop of spirit water to be seen. There's actual pictures. Creepy. Actually, I'm going to share a screen so you guys can see this. See that? Look at the dog. There's a doggy. It's cool. Photography of animals after death. There are many incidents authoritatively cited of photographs of animals after death, sometimes when the photographer was trying to get pictures of human beings from the spirit land. In one instance, the medium took the photograph, but instead of the accepted relative, there appeared on the plate an extra of a terrier Floss, a pet of the medium who had died a short time before. In another case, where a woman was trying to get a spirit picture of a dead relative, there appeared instead one of her pet cats, which had been dead a week only. On the same photograph, there has been seen also the words, "Dear parents," written by the child of one of the sitters. The child was in spirit world, and the owner of the pet was told that it was being looked after by the child, who had written a long message to her parents in a minute but clear writing. And another time, in the photograph of a medium and others at the seashore, there appeared not only the picture of the dead son of the medium, but also one of a pony who had passed on and who had been loved and owned by the son. In the picture shown here, a woman and her Irish wolfhound is found the very dear and easily discernible picture of a puppy. The owner of the wolfhound recognized the puppy as one which had died a short time ago, and to which both she and the wolfhound had been deeply attached. The puppy had been in the habit of lying down with him, with his head in the same position as it is in the picture. The other picture shown is a reproduction of a spirit picture taken over 80 years ago. The spirit individuals plainly visible around the medium have been identified. They are starting at the top, going left to right. Hana, Hindu, control, the medium's dog, which was killed in an automobile accident. Patha, materialization, her helper and chemist, Georgiana, child guide and message bearer, Professor Ian, philosopher and teacher. Dr. Benjamin, spirit chemist, and Timothy, trumpet control. This picture is reproduced from the Psychic Observer. These are just a few of many cases on record of spirit, photographs of animals which have been taken. The cases in picture on plate 2 are taken from When Your Animal Dies by Sylvia Barnell. For other cases and details, see the splendid book. With the widely attested to array of physically proven facts, there should no longer be any doubt left in the unprejudiced mind as to the reality of animal survival of bodily death. Superintelligence of animals. That some animals possess an intelligence way above the average of their species has been proven in many cases. Their mental powers have been investigated and studied, written about by scientists, professors, savants, and psychologists. They have demonstrated qualities of reason, humor, and sometimes a certain psychic ability, and that they have memory and powers of reflection. In addition, some of these animals have solved problems of arithmetic, which have been confusing to many a mathematically informed human. Properly trained horses can spell and work out mathematical problems by the stomping of their hooves, or by picking out stripes of wood on which were stamped letters, even to the extraction of the cube root. Marterlinck, the profound thinker, poet, and writer, that blend of mystic sense and scientific spirit, once paid a visit to the stables of the famous Alderfield horses and found that one of them solved problems of mathematics which stumped even the great man himself. A Shetland pony, Black Bear, was owned and trained by Mr. Barrett of New York. Black Bear's unexpected replies to questions showed almost independent thinking, and sometimes his knowledge of historical events surpassed what had been taught to him. He seemed to develop an intuitive proficiency in the subject which had been taught to him, far surpassing that of his master, who was often perplexed by the variety of information and mathematical skill and imaginative powers displayed by the pony. The authority referred to in the chapter further says, there is testimony available regarding his intelligence of over 60 animals, including 44 dogs, who have learned to speak their thoughts understandingly by means of an alphabetical code taught to them by their owners. After they had mastered the alphabet and learned to count, the dogs were able to convey their own thoughts, either by tapping their paws, by barking, or by other methods. Thus, they could converse and exchange points of view with their human friends. Pause. If you go onto YouTube or Facebook or even TikTok, they have these, the blue buttons that are used on WeNotMe. They're actually programmed, and I've seen so many people who have cats that have conversations with cats with buttons. So the cat will say bubbles. We'll press the bubbles button, and then they get bubbles. Or dirty, like implying something's dirty. And there's a whole bunch of these trained buttons that animals now communicate with their owners. It is hysterical. If I figure out how to get a bunch of these buttons and put them in a mat and then program them and train an animal from kittenhood, I'm totally doing it. But even dogs, they have these buttons, and the dogs will press like hurt, tired, want to play, yes, no, sorry, all kinds of crazy shit. They're out there. I don't know the cat's name that does it. Russell, I think. I find that on Facebook. Russell's the cutest little cat ever, next to Mr. Kitters. But Mr. Kitters is a chirper. But what does that say? What is that showing us? That they are moving up. You're moving up. Cracker, that's the name. A dog saved the life of his owner's daughter. The child was seen by the dog to be clinging to the back of her father's moving car. In order to attract the owner's attention, Cracker threw himself repeatedly at the car. He died from the injuries received, but his efforts succeeded in saving the life of his child. There are people who kept a cat merely for catching mice. But anyone who has had experience in treating a cat as a member of the family knows that this animal has intelligence and seeming reasoning power. The cat threw seldom as demonstrated as a dog capable of deep affection. Nurse Nichols was preparing breakfast when she heard a tapping on the window pane. A kitten was by this means trying to attract her attention. She followed the animal into the garden where it led the way to a shed. There, the nurse found the gardener suffering from a stroke. Normally, no one would have gone to the shed until evening, but by what time it would have been too late to save the life of the stricken man. A great number of other stories of the reasoning power of cats have been recorded. Birds also come into their share of credit for intelligence, which seems almost human in its scope, and stories are told of birds being jealous and refusing to sing when a strange bird was brought into the home, and exhibiting another remarked evidence of intelligence above that of the ordinary animal. On the radio program We the People, there was featured a parrot which, after 20 years of close association with its master, exhibited such human intelligence as to give surprisingly intelligent answers to the questions asked by the audience. Even with no domestic animals, it has been found that when in constant contact with humans, they develop intelligent observation and they acquire personalities of their own. A ship stationed in Fort Blair Harbor was dressed for the celebration of the captain's birthday party with flags and bunting. Trained elephants were at work on the shore handling timber, and soon came a message from the shore with orders to undress the ship of its flags and decorations. The elephants saw them and, sensing a holiday, refused to work. The examples given above will serve to illustrate this absorption of human intelligence by animals of different kinds. Unless otherwise especially assigned, the quotations and examples in this chapter are from the splendid book on this subject, When Your Animal Dies by Sylvia Barnardell, as well as previously noted. Interesting there. I have a feeling this one, next section, ensoulment. We'll see. We feel that a word of warning should be issued as to certain dangers involved in making an animal too intimate a member of the family by doing so, we assume considerable responsibility for that animal's evolution. It's true. All living things are constantly throwing off emanations of various kinds. With human beings, these include bodily, astral, psychic, mental, and spiritual emanations. These imping upon and are absorbed by everything within their environment. Because of this, the trained psychotraumist can pick up their vibrations and determine whether whatever form of life and activity has been present in a certain place. I'm not going to name the person, but I do know somebody who has a cat that has taken on a darker emanation. Their behavior is erratically changed. They do naughty, naughty, naughty things. And you could tell when the animal is not under an influence. It is the case. It's very weird. Very, very weird. Oh, when great love and affection are given to an animal, these emanations are focused more forcibly on the animal. As the animal unconsciously absorbs more of them, it naturally becomes more than a mere animal, to the degree to which it is able to absorb them. In other words, to that extent, the animal becomes humanized. This plainly shows in the super intelligence displayed by these specially gifted animals mentioned elsewhere in the chapter. These animals have received intensive training by their owners, and thus they have absorbed so much of their trainer's mental emanations that their consciousness is expanded beyond that of the animal until their minds are partially humanized. Hence, they frequently have the reasoning and deductive powers of a 12-year-old child or beyond, for they live in the intellectual world of man instead of the instinctive world of the animals. This humanization of the animals by the absorption of human emanations can be carried to the extent of practically ensouling them with a part of the human soul vibration. Ding, 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 me and Morgan. This makes the animal more than an animal, and to the extent humanized, and takes it out of its normal evolution and from under the guidance of its group soul. It may even reincarnate more than once in this life and also be sufficiently humanized to reincarnate with you in a future life. Hence, you become responsible for its future evolution until the development of its human qualities enables it to enter the human kingdom. I don't think there's a caution there. I just there's always going to be, sorry, I have to pause. They're making it seem like it's a bad thing and it's not. Although you're always going to have one animal in your life that you're super bonded and attached to. One. Not that your other ones you don't love unconditionally and you don't love their presence, you don't want them cuddling snugly, but there's always one that mimics you the most, that you see yourself in the animal. Always one. I'm not saying that there might not be others down the road or prior in the past, but there's always one animal. I know Morgan was mine. And even Ethan, he's evolved. He's just like having an experience. He was in my energy field. He was in my vibratory state, and I helped him along his evolution. Now, if you're an abusive person, that doesn't solve the animal's problems, and it could jiggle and wiggle things. But nothing is outside the scope of source, and all is supposed to be. So I'm just saying. Ooh, I'm in a lot of pain. Woohoo! Crystalline body, here I come. Hence, you become responsible for its future evolution until the development of its human qualities enables it to enter the human kingdom. Many of our animals are moving into that kingdom next cycle. Thus, long after you have become Superman and no longer have to incarnate on this planet, you will have to look down on and guide and be responsible for the evolution of this animal. I love that. I want to be Morgan's guide. How awesome is that? As its father in heaven until it becomes an individualized human being. Oh, I can't. I would love to be Morgan's guide and Ethan's guide. Remember, your essence is in multiple other essences and infinite. So if a little chunk of you is a guardian angel for your animals, why not? It's just your higher self. You're just playing their higher selves because Your higher self is your guide, in my estimation, in my perception of what I get. You get to be their spirit guide. How awesome. You should therefore think well before you assume such a responsibility. I don't know. I think this is fantastic. I'm totally up with that. I'm down with that. That would be a pleasure of mine to be a guide for the two animals that brought me. And I don't even know about my other cat, but to know that I can aid them and guide them. Come on now. Even in the case of non-domestic animals, it has been found that when close contact with humans have been established, intelligent observation develops and they acquire personalities of their own. In the recent publication of Anise Payson Truans Across the Line, spoken of in another chapter, she speaks of asking her husband on the other side if the dogs are there with him, and he replies, Laddie and Wolf knew me at once. It was so good to have them bounding around me again. Here we have the word of one who was deeply interested in religious subjects and the life on the other side of the line. Before his going over, the animals do live and have consciousness after they leave this earth plane. So the next time that ends that chapter, geez Louise, we're going to read the Theosophists claim. Hi, Blavatsky. Blavatsky talks a lot about them. But that was a very interesting chapter, personal survival. I know there are so many people that are losing either humans or animals right now. A lot of people are losing animals. I lost 2 in a year. It's devastating. I miss my little babies, but I celebrate them because I know I gave the best that I could to them. I know I took care of them the best that I could to my ability. I know that they saw my spiritual and physical evolution up to this point. They saw me evolve. They saw me go through the trials and errors of life. They were with me through the worst and the most rock bottom hells I could have ever went through. And they saw me emerge from that. They watched me, even though they're little animals, they watched me evolve. Morgan got to see it up until April. She got to be with me. What a blessing. They were there to help me through my hardest times, be a comfort, crawl up on me when I was in pain. They would crawl up on me, like Morgan would sleep right here and Ethan would be by my feet. And they would both purr to aid me. You can't get any better than that. And it's not that I don't like dogs. I love dogs. The taking care of the dogs is not my thing. Well, I mean, it would be healthy to walk a dog every day, but I'm more of a cat person. But I love dogs too. I've been around a lot of dogs in my life, and it's the same premise. They're there to greet you and meet you. They look to you to fulfill their needs. And why wouldn't you want to be their guides? And that's just one aspect of you. It's not your whole full self, your soul essence watching over them. You're already moving up and ascending. A little chunk of you is doing a job over here. And why wouldn't you want to be with them? I think it's beautiful. I honestly don't think there's anything to worry about. They make this like, please be careful. Well, it's all in divine order. I did a TikTok today on that. It's divine order. Everything has divine order. If it's meant to be that way, it's going to happen that way. I would hope that many of you who are animal lovers and that have animals that have passed or is going to pass, like, just take it as we are ascending, and the energy coming in right now, the purging that we are going through. I know I'm going through it very heavy right now. Listening to different people talk and channel about these symptoms, and it's not just the ear buzzing, and there's other things that are your body is changing. I know mine has been transforming like a caterpillar. It's painful. Right now, it feels like my arthritis is back, and I know it's not. I know I'm taking care of myself. Like, I'm putting on weight. It's probably water weight, but it's really annoying for me. I don't feel comfortable. It hurts. But what's the opposite? I look like I'm 97 pounds and disheveled. So I rather be where I am right now and look healthy and fed and vibrant than at 97 pounds. That was almost about last year. It was a little over 100 last year. But at this time last year, I was now starting to gain weight. I was still just recovering for 2 years of eating once a day. So I'm recovering from a lot of trauma that I had no choice. I was in survival mode, and those cats were the ones that kept me grounded. I'm very thankful for them, and if I can ever repay them back, I would love to be their guardian angel. That would be my pleasure. And I hope for many of you that have animals at home, it stinks that they're not here, but it's just like anybody that passes away. There's always other people to be around. There's always animals to save. And I know as you get up there in age, it's a lot harder to do those things. Totally understand that. But if you can't have animals anymore, go into nature and watch the birds. I love watching the birds in my backyard. I just mowed for 3 hours today. I was mowing my lawn because of the rain tomorrow and moving my greenhouse so that my flower beds could motivate me to clean them, get them nice and get them de-weeded. But it's so amazing to see woodpeckers and to see bluebirds. I've been seeing a lot of them, blue jays, robins. I've been seeing just gorgeous birds. I haven't seen the cardinals yet, and I've seen 1 or 2 little hummingbirds. It's been a little bit chilly up here still. It gets nicer in the day, but overnight it gets really, really chilly and cold. So hopefully they start coming more. I'm seeing hawks again in the sky. I'm seeing beautiful animals. I'm seeing bunnies. I love animals. And I hope a lot of you do too. And even if that's by watching them on shorts, they're a source of us to raise our frequency. Watching the cutest, adorable animals makes your heart melt. And if it doesn't, that's okay. Find something that does. We're at the crux of change. It's a slow rollout, and it's gonna take a few years. This is not just something that just snap, it happens. Each stair step, you get used to the frequency. Your body gets acclimated. It's going to get acclimated to a frequency. And then once you hit that acclimation, the next frequency is going to be introduced, And then the next level of rolling out slowly so that your body is not overburdened and overstimulated. That you're doing it on your own time. Upstairs, your higher self, your other selves, and the galactics are helping us with these changes. And it's a slow rollout. It doesn't happen in a snap. The only way it happens in a snap is if this physical vehicle dies. Then it's automatic. For us who are embodied, raising and shifting with Mother Earth, it's a slow rollout. Their density isn't ending anytime soon. And many people aren't even aware of frequencies and vibrations. And that's okay too, because they're working on the unconscious and subconscious levels where we're conscious of this stuff. The animals are in the same predicament. They're also evolving. They're moving on up as well. So be the best human example that you can be the model. I want to be the best model for my boyfriend's girls. Regardless of our relationship status, I want to be a good role model for children, period. I want to show them that it's better to read a book than to be on the phone all day. That going into nature and grounding is easy, free, and fun. Be the best role model for your animals. That's where the bond comes from. And when you can give that unconditional love and be able to detach when they leave, they don't want you to be sad. They want you to move on and help another animal. Remember, they are in one consciousness, ideally. So what are you doing to better your animal's life and yours? Are you being the best role model for your animal? And it's mind-blowing that I've been saying this stuff for a long time and I just read it in a book. So I must be channeling them, because your thoughts are not really your own either. Yeah, this life is a mind fuck. Excuse my French. So guys, sending each and every one of you love, light, compassion, grace, protection, and shielding energy. Please go within. Be the lighthouse for others. Be the shoulder for somebody to lean on. Amish mindset always. And I hope you all have a good weekend. If anybody is out tomorrow in Maryville, Indiana, come and see me at the library. I know it's going to rain. Fun. I will be there from 12 to 4, selling and just hanging out. And I would love to meet you if you're available to take a swap by. Ding, 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 ding. So until the next time, guys, please be safe, be seen. Probably not doing a video tomorrow, just because I'm going to be probably spent. But I will be in the chat on WeNotMe on Sunday. That's if my phone works and if the laptop is fully functional. I lost my chat twice yesterday. So yeah, be safe, be seen, and have a nice night, guys. Bye for now.